It's a maritime mystery. The Japanese flying squid, a vital source of food in much of East Asia, is vanishing from waters where the creatures had thrived for millions of years.
What is causing this crash? Fishery agency, everybody is interested.
To discover why, we go deep on a story about climate change, a nuclear-armed rogue state, and a battle for resources playing out in one of the least governed corners of the globe.
全体の日本国内の生イカおよび冷凍イカの水揚げ量は激減をしているっていうのが現状ですね。それは大変危険な海になっちゃってるっていうことで。
What's happening to the world's squid supply? This is Jaeyoon, a coastal town at the heart of South Korea's squid fishing industry.
In the early 2000s, squid was something that was so common that it was served as a free side dish in all local restaurants.
Today, the industry is in trouble as squid populations go into steep decline.
This Japanese flying squid is one of the most loved seafood in the region. South Korea's top seafood by production value, and one of the top seafood consumed in Japan. And it was also one of the largest North Korean exporters until recent sanctions.
Squid fishermen are feeling pressure on multiple fronts. Climate change has caused ocean temperatures to rise, impacting the breeding cycle in ways that scientists are still trying to unravel.
It's shifting where the spawning is occurring, and some have hypothesized that the spawning area is getting smaller. Others have hypothesized that the feeding conditions are not as good in the warmer conditions. There's a lot of correlation, temperature and catches, but making the causation link is a little more difficult.
The reported catch of this Japanese flying squid, once abundant species, have plummeted by about 80% both in South Korea and Japanese waters for the last 15 years, since 2003.
To see what this looks like, you need to look right here. This is the Yamato Bank, a large, relatively shallow shelf between Japan and the Korean peninsula that has long been a popular spot to catch squid.
So why is this area so popular for squid fishing for many countries in this region? First of all, squid is a transboundary species and migratory species.
Japanese flying squid typically have short lifespans, about 1 year, during which time they migrate through different regions of the ocean at different stages in their life. In the autumn, these squid are usually fully grown, reaching lengths of about 50 centimeters as they pass through the Yamato Bank.
That's kind of the migratory path, and that's sort of the battleground for everyone to go and catch squid.
It's a battleground that suddenly got more crowded in 2014. That's when Japanese squid boats began to report a sharp rise in the number of North Korean poachers operating in the Yamato Bank.
もう顔を識別できるところまで来ます。肉眼で。で、あまり近くに来て船の脇に網流すもんですから、こちらの船のイカ釣り機械の針に網引っかかる時あるんですよ。乗ってる人間が兵隊もかなり乗ってるって話聞きますし、多分それ拳銃とかそういうの積んでる船もあるんだろうし、怖いですよ。
Historically, North Korea has had little experience with deep-sea fishing. But as South Korea developed a modern fishing fleet, its neighbor to the north sought to catch up, an industry it saw as a key marker of national development.
Fishing is one of the few places, one of the few sectors of the economy where North Korea can extract enough protein for its population. So, fish becomes very important as a way of feeding North Koreans potentially, but also as an object of trade.
To understand how far North Korea's fishing industry has come, look at these satellite images of the coastal city of Cheongjin. These small wooden boats are part of North Korea's large yet remarkably basic fishing fleet.
So these are like 10 to 15 meters long. So it's very small at the scale of the the sea and the scale of the other fleets. And they mostly are made of wood, quite shabby in a way, to be able to operate in quite far away from land.
While Pyongyang struggled to build a deep-sea fishing industry, its nearshore fleet became one of the more visible signs of the North Korean economy. In the waters off Russia, China, South Korea, and Japan, sailors have long reported sightings and run-ins with North Korean ships. As North Korean leader Kim Jong-un continued to develop nuclear weapons, the country became the target of increasing international sanctions.
By tightening the web of sanctions around North Korea, both through UN measures and autonomous steps, we aim to increase significantly the cost of North Korea's weapons programs.
The sanctions clamped down on the many ways North Korea earned foreign currency, including the licensing of its territorial waters to foreign fishing fleets. For years, North Korea had collected fees from Chinese fleets operating off its shores. Pyongyang also allowed seafood caught by its own fishermen to be sold abroad.
The squid was reported to be the third largest North Korean export, at least officially, until the recent sanctions. So it's a big industry. It's a big money-making industry for North Korea.
Then in 2017, sanctions put an end to it all. Even as funds dried up, the Kim regime continued expanding the fishing industry. So a new generation set out to sea, but without the experience or resources necessary to survive.
They start sending them out on these quite old-fashioned wooden flimsy boats, often with very small horsepower engines, sometimes only about 36 horsepower engines. At the same time, the thing that they're looking for, the space they're going to, is about 500 miles off the coast of Korea. That's where the squid live, yeah? And that is a very long way.
This sea is particularly rough, especially during the autumn time when squid is being caught. It's almost like risking your life.
This is what happens when you push an untrained and underfunded fishing fleet out to sea.
A gruesome discovery. Wave after wave of suspected North Korean fishing boats, some containing bodies,
found washed ashore on the western coast of the country, suspected to be those of North Korean fishermen.
Between 2017 and 2019, nearly 350 of these so-called ghost boats were found along Japan's western coast.
That triggered our interest and our curiosity. Well, wow, what's going on there?
To understand why these so-called ghost ships were washing up on Japanese shores, you need to start with the missing squid.
And when we met with local fisheries researchers in South Korea and Japan, they explained to us that there has been a huge decline of squid in both countries, even if they implemented some standalone domestic conservation measures for years.
The numbers just did not add up. North Korean ships were too small and poorly equipped to cause such a dramatic drop in squid populations. What Park uncovered was evidence of theft on an industrial scale.
This is, to our knowledge, the largest known case of illegal fishing in history, perpetrated by vessels from one nation operating in another nation's waters. It's worth more than about $700 million. And it is no surprise that there has been this significant decrease in the catches in South Korea and Japan.
To find out what was going on, investigators at Global Fishing Watch began with a map of North Korea. Park then added an overlay showing all active ships in the area using their AIS, or Automated Identification System, a unique tracking signal broadcast by larger vessels worldwide.
And quite surprisingly, we didn't see anything on our AIS data, especially in North Korean waters. And then we started to look at satellite imagery, satellite radar, and night light detection, satellite technologies, anything that we can bring to shed light. And then we started seeing things, and it became really interesting.
While AIS data showed no vessels operating in North Korean waters, satellite images revealed something else entirely. a massive dark fleet of thousands of vessels secretly operating within North Korea's territorial waters. Under UN sanctions, foreign fleets were banned from fishing within North Korean waters.
And we cross-checked with whatever numbers that South Korean Coast Guard reported. They counted every year how many vessels from China headed towards North Korean waters and came back from North Korean waters. So we cross-checked our numbers, our detection numbers, with these South Korean numbers, and these two numbers agree quite greatly. Then it's interesting. You wanna know what happened?
To answer that question, Park and his team at Global Fishing Watch dug into the data. The team combined 4 sources, including satellite images, radar, and AIS signals, to develop a theory of what was happening once the Chinese vessel switched off their tracking signals.
These vessels generate with 500 to 700 light bulbs, generate more light than some say small football stadiums. I couldn't believe my eyes because the scale of the fleet was incredible. It was unprecedented.
This, according to Park, was the missing piece of the puzzle. Massive industrial fleets, all run by Chinese fishing concerns and operating in violation of international sanctions, were catching squid in a corner of the ocean that was once home to small North Korean vessels.
What is the impact of this illegal fishing? Can't really compete with them, unfortunately. And it is likely that the North Korean small-scale vessels have no option but to venture further up to north, out to Russian waters, to catch squid before this big industrial fleet catches everything. We found a strong correlation between the number of illegal North Korean fishing vessels operating in Russia and the number of ghost boats found in Japan. It is heartbreaking.
Other experts think the connection between Chinese dark fleets and North Korean ghost ships isn't so black and white. While Chinese dark fleets were seen illegally operating in North Korean waters, the responsibility for the ghost ships phenomenon might lie squarely on the shoulders of the Kim regime.
North Korea has an immense drop-off in finances from fishing, and it replaces this temporarily, I think, with a sort of leasing of its fishing waters to a series of Chinese fleets. I mean, when we say Chinese fishing fleets, these are not fleets. I don't think these are fleets directed by the Chinese government or anything like that. They're like, nothing. Beijing didn't have a hand in this. It's probably private sector actors, or sort of quasi-private sector actors. North Korea had a lot of relationships with fishing companies around Dalian. And the trade in fish was not really with central government or even regional government in China, but with local businesses, local enterprises, and some parts of the North Korean army in the past.
So what else could have caused the number of ghost ships found in Japan to rise dramatically and then just as suddenly stop altogether? Well, remember this image of North Korean boats packed like sardines in port. This is the city of Chongjin, a place that, despite its coastal location, is not known for its fishing industry.
So Chongqing is famous for the chemical industry and famous for other sorts of heavy industries, not really that much fishing. And they pressure a community of people to go out to sea who are not fishermen, and then they don't have training and they don't have navigation. And they don't have the resources or the capacity. Their boats are very old-fashioned, and they break down a lot, the engines. And normally, the fleets are quite large, so 100 boats at a time of these little fishing boats. So normally, when someone gets into trouble, another boat can take them, But that doesn't always happen, And as the fleets get larger and larger and larger, you get a few more, an increasing number of these small boats, run out of fuel, engine breaks down, get into difficulties, and they get abandoned, basically.
The ghost ships were seemingly the consequence of a cruel calculus that sent hundreds of poorly equipped boats to sea, knowing full well that not all of them would return. In total, at least 70 bodies were recovered from these ghost ships. More than 40 others survived the ordeal and were saved by Japanese authorities. And it would be another massive global event that stopped the ghost ship phenomenon altogether.
So in 2020, obviously COVID happens, and North Korea adopts pretty much the most intense lockdown, shutdown, isolation of any state in the world. The ghost ships immediately stop.
Meanwhile, thanks in part to Global Fishing Watch's investigation, China and South Korea promised to work together to crack down on illegal fishing in the region. But while instances of illegal fishing are seemingly in decline, squid populations have yet to rebound, suggesting there are other factors at play.
Some people have also suggested that the fishing pressure by North Korea or China might be affecting, but I think most people believe it's most likely related to the warmer temperatures around Japan.
And recently we have seen some positive changes. The question is where these vessels were gone. These vessels probably gone elsewhere to continue their illegal fishing. We don't have answers yet, but we are very interested, and we are right now working on to see and determine whether there's any balloon effect, that you just squeeze some of the problems here, then you see a lot of problems there.